everyone, welcome to Marie's Scrappy Creations, where we sew the scraps of your life into beautiful creations. Today we're going to use some leftover pieces of fabric from your sewing room to make an adorable phone case. You ready for this? Isn't that cute? It has a little strap. It opens up, so the place for your pocket. The pocket for your phone, which I can't show you because my phone is recording me. Anyway, your phone goes in here and there's an extra pocket for you. Okay, so it's all made with things that I bet you have around your sewing area. So if you're interested in making a phone case with a cute little handle, you stick around. I'm going to show you how I did it. You ready? Let's go give it a try. You can do it. Okay, we're going to take a look at everything we need for today's project. The first thing you'll need is your outer fabric, which is 5 1/4 by 16 inches. I have this fused with some Pellon 987 fusible fleece. And as you can see, I've left a little bit of a seam allowance in there. Maybe you like to take it to the edge. That's up to you. Either way, I used Pellon 987, and again, that's 5 1/4 by 16 inches. We have a lining piece at the same measurement, 5 1/4 by 16 inches. No interfacing, no fleece needed. We have a pocket. This is the outer pocket, measuring 5 1/4 by 13.5 inches. 13 inches, I'm sorry. 5 1/4 by 13 inches. I have this fused with a lightweight fusible sheer weight interfacing, 906. All of these dimensions, as well as the products I used, will be listed in the description box below. So again, this is your pocket, 5 1/4 by 13 inches. This is going to be your flap. This measures 5 1/4 by 7 inches and is fused with the Pellon 987, the same as my outer piece. So it's just a fusible fleece versus an interfacing. This is going to be our strap, and our strap measures 3 1/2 inches by 13 inches, and that has the same Pellon 906, just a lightweight. I suppose you could use something like your SF 101, or there's a few you could use. You probably could leave it out for that matter, or put a piece of cotton batting in there, whatever you want to do. You could also use cotton batting on your outer piece and just quilt it down. You know, there's always a lot of options on these, so you use what you have and I'm sure it will work out. The only other thing I'm going to use are these little snaps. You could use Velcro, you could use a magnetic clasp. That's up to you which you want to use, but I'm going to show you how I use these. So the first thing that we are going to do, let me see, I'm going to get my little ironing board over here. The first thing we're going to do is take our pocket piece, and that's our 13-inch piece. We're going to fold it in half because we're going to take a few things over to the sewing machine at once. We may as well do more than one thing since we're going to be there. We're going to leave our pocket right here pinned like this. We're going to take our flap, which is the 5 1/4 by 7-inch piece. Now this, I'm going to use a small ruler and a marker to show you what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to fold it right sides together and pin it. And this is the 5 1/4 inch side. You're folding the 7-inch part in half just to keep things clear here. Now we want to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and since I'm not used to making a 3/8 inch, and maybe you're not either, I'm going to mark it. I'm going to make a line on both sides, because I'm going to use that line for something other than sewing, which I'll show you here in just a moment. Now, I want to round off this edge. So I'm going to take this little round container I've got and go from that marked line up this way. See? Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Just like that. And realistically, if you wanted them to be exactly even, you could fold them in half and, you know, trim them out or whatever. I'm not going to get that particular. I'm sure it's close enough. I don't think I'm going to notice. So when I go to the sewing machine, I'm going to back tack and I'm going to sew up here. Then I'm going to sew here. Okay, we're going to leave this open. You want to leave this open right here. Don't stitch. Here and here. So I'm going to set my pocket piece and my flap to the side. Now, this is my strap. So since I'm going to the sewing machine, I may as well show you something else to sew while you're there. We're going to fold this in half, wrong sides together. We're going to make a nice crease. I do have some steam work in there. And I bet you can guess what I'm going to do. Smart cookies. I'm going to fold this into the center. Holding it into the center. Give it a nice press. Nice and even. Hold that there with some steam and you'll get a very nice crisp edge. I never move it back and forth. I don't do this sort of thing when I'm working on these because you can stretch them a little bit. So I feel it's always best just to keep the iron stationary while doing this sort of thing. But if that's what you do, we all have our own way of doing things, right? So there are no sewing police in my sewing room, so you can do whatever you want to do. I'll advise what I do and you can do whatever you want. Okay. Gonna hold that. Nice hot iron. I love this iron. It has a linen setting and that is nice and hot, just how I like it, to get those nice crisp seams. Okay, now I am going to go over to the sewing machine, and as I said, I'm going to sew 1/4 inch right there on this pocket piece. I'm going to sew, leave this opening, I'm going to sew, and then I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch down one side and down the other. And then I will meet you back here and show you what's next. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here now. Take my pins out. I'm going to set the strap piece aside. Excuse me. I just top stitched it. Set that aside. So I'm going to grab a drink. It's so dry in here. I've had a fan going all day because of the heat, and it really makes it dry in here. So I'm going to trim out this flap. I'm going to go around the curve. As well as I'm going to do some little clips, go up close, just not into your seam allowance. You don't want to cut your stitches or you'll be back at the sewing machine before I could give you the creative word of the day, which is going to be phone, because we're making a phone case. I just threw that right in there so slick, didn't I? Okay, we're going to flip this right side out. And I left the iron here and handy because we're going to be using that a couple of times. I think you're going to get a much nicer finish if you use an iron. Once I have this kind of flattened by hand, there's usually some places that don't like to pop up where they ought to, and I coax them up with a pin. And I have quite a bit of steam on my iron. I'll let it have a steam. That looks nice. Set that to the side. The next one is our pocket piece. Now it's just a tube, but we're going to open this seam. Actually, I will if I can get hold of it. We're going to press that open. Come on, you stubborn thing. Nice and flat. Then once you have it right side out, go back to where your seam is and fold it. Press it with your hands, your fingers, because you want a nice crease there. Then you want a nice crease at the bottom. Oops. Now I used a non-directional print. You certainly could use a directional print, but you would have to piece it in the middle. So you'd have to add a 1/4 inch to each side, so a 1/2 inch overall to your length. So instead of 16 inches, you'd cut it at 16.5, cut it in half, and then make the right side go this way and the right side go that way. If that doesn't make sense, leave a comment and I can help you out if that's something you want to do. Okay, so take a look. This is where we sewed. This is our seam. I want you to go to the other edge. That's just the fold. Okay, I'm going to mark mine by putting my pins in it. I'm going over to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch this 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. The same time I'm over there, I'm going to top stitch this, and I'll probably go about 1/4 of an inch from the edge on this one, just to make it look a little more professional. So I'm going to go do that and I'll meet you right back here. All right, my top stitching is done. Remove my pins. I'm going to take my outer piece. Now, I'm going to come down about 1.25 inches from the top, and the edge that I've top pieced, I'm going to put right there. Make sure it's exactly how you want it. If you have I like the look of this side a little better. Make sure it's straight. And pin or clip it in place. And I want my strap to be on this side. Okay? I need to make sure I have room. So without having not planned this out very well, let me make sure, yeah, we can move this down a little. I'm going to move this down just a little bit and I'll let you know what it measures, because we want to make sure we can get that strap in there. All right, I'm going to come down 1.5 inches. I want to make sure that that's still going to fit, and it is. So 1.5 inches from the top, and I'll pin that in place just to hold it while I go to the next part. And the next part is your strap, or your flap. They rhyme, flap and strap. Okay, so you want to center it. Now you can choose to eyeball it, which is what I'm going to do, or you can fold it in half, make your mark, fold this in half, make a mark and match them up. I guess I ended up doing it anyway, didn't I? And you just need to hold it kind of in place. You want it to be even. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew very close to that edge. And I'm just going to hold this on here, okay? And then I'm going to come down the side very close to the edge. And then I'm going to come across here. Now this is the bottom of our pocket. So we want to be sure that the pocket is strong. So what I'll do when I get here is my stitch length will be a 2.0. So I'm going to come down, across, and back up. And the only reason I'm doing the sides and the top of this is to hold them in place. But this is definitely going to be a seam that's used to keep things in. So just keep that in mind as you're sewing. Now the other thing we can do while we're right there, I have to stop and think of which way this goes. Okay. Is we can put our strap, but I think I'm going to come back and do that after because it's too busy right there. We'll do this first. Okay, let's see. I'll trim my threads. I got stuff fraying all over the place, don't I? And now, let's see. First off, I'll put these edges together and I'm going to stick them underneath here and I'm going to make sure that they stick out past the edge. It doesn't have to be a whole lot, just by a little bit. I'm going to go over and stitch this just like we did the side. I'm just going to hold that in place so I don't have to leave the pin in it. Okay. Now, because this comes out past the edge, I am going to use a safety pin. Hold that down into the pocket. Boy, that's a lot of layers to go through. Just be careful with that. Okay. Keep that flap down. Now, grab the only other piece left, and that's your lining. Match up your edges. Pin or clip them in place. And there is some bulk here, but you're not going through everything because your strap is down. See, your strap is down here and you're only going to use a 1/4 inch. So as long as this is all straight with this edge, you're good. Come to the other end. Straighten out your edges, meet them, pin or clip them in place. Now, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch across this edge and a 1/4 inch across this edge. And then I'll meet you back here for the next part. And we're almost done. Okay. We'll remove our pins. Now, I want you to fold this so that your lining is one way and your outer pieces are the opposite way. You're going to match your seams. Put one nesting one way, one nesting the opposite way. So whichever way, like this thicker one is going to want to go a certain way. And you can just allow it to do that and then pin or clip that in place so that your seam stays nice and neat. We all like those neat seams. All right. And then pin or clip this into place so that it holds while you sew. It really won't take very many because it's pretty thick, so it will almost stay where you want it already. Now, as you guessed, we have to leave an opening. And I always mark mine this way. I don't know, you want to leave a few inches, 3 or 3.5. Well, yeah, I got about 3.5 there. That's good. So now we need to sew here and we need to sew here except for here. So we're going to go. So you want to back tack at the beginning and at the end of each piece. We are so close to done. Are you excited yet? Because I am. Wow, this is coming together really quickly, isn't it? I think so. And when you turn it right side out, because we're going to turn it right side out and then we're going to flip it back, but I'll show you why in a minute. But when you flip it right side out, if your pocket isn't laying correctly, don't worry, because depending on how you flip it back, sometimes that pocket can look like you've made a mistake, but as long as you've followed everything I've done, you don't have a mistake. It's just the way it folds out. Okay. So we're going to take a look here, see what we have. And I can tell you right from here that I think I have my pocket backwards. So that's a perfect way to show you what I'm talking about. It can seem as though it's wrong when it isn't. Let me get this straightened out so you can see where I am. Okay, so, okay, pretend that's in there. See, this looks wrong. You see, it should become, the flap should be coming over the opening. All you need to do is flip that pocket the other way. But I'm not going to mess with this right now because we have to close up that opening in the liner, as well as if we just leave that liner in there, when we pull our phone out, that lining can pull out. If you're a new subscriber, you probably haven't seen my Scrappy open wide zippered pouch. But if you have seen it, you know that when I close that up, I attach this to this other piece. I'll show you here. It's a little trick and it helps the bags stay together. It keeps the lining down where it belongs. So, not on the side where the opening is, but on the other side. Fold it in half. Just fold it in half. Now right here, right between this edge and your seam line, I want you to go back and forth 3 or 4 times with a few stitches. I'll do that and come show you what it should look like. Okay. Now, I just have a few stitches going back and forth right there. And that's going to hold the lining when we put this right side out. So we're going to flip it back through again. And sometimes getting it straightened out and the corners poked out can be the hardest part of this whole bag, or of any bag actually. Because sometimes it's like, really? It didn't go, what? So, and again, I'm going to flip it right side out and then I'm going to flip it like this so that we can sew that opening closed. Okay. So you need it well enough so that you can get yourself in here. I left my iron out. I don't know if I need it yet or not. Sometimes I use it for this, and other times I'm able to finger press, but we'll see what we've got here. I want to straighten it. I think I'm going to be able to finger press it. And what I normally do at this point is put my zipper foot on if I use the machine, which I'm going to do. Because with the zipper foot, I can get very close to that raw edge and make it look so much neater than I can with any other foot. Now, if you do it without it, that's great. But anyway, I'm going to go stitch this up and be right back. Okay, that's all sewn. Can flip it right side out. And the only thing I have left at this point is the snaps. Other than getting this lining and this done. I have my pokey tool somewhere here. And of course, you've got kind of two places that you can work from to get that where you want it to be. And a little bit of finagling and you can get it. I promise. It's just sometimes it's a little trickier than others. Be careful what you're poking it with, though. I know some people use their scissors, but I did that one time and regretted it. Of course, you could poke anything through. This could do the same thing, but as long as you're careful, so you can get it most of the way. Sometimes I take a big pin, but you have to be careful of that too, because if you catch this, you can kind of rip your fabric as well. Well, I think that's pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, so the next part is the snaps. So I have a ruler, I have my awl, and I have my little tool. So first things first, the snap is going to go here on the pocket as well as on the flap, like so. So I'm going to measure, and that's 4 1/2. So we need to come in 2 1/4. And I am 3/4 of an inch from the top right there. I'm going to make that hole first. Then I'm going to come down here. I only want to go through that pocket piece. I don't want to go through the other. And I know I could and should measure this, but this is, when you're working with me, this is what we do. We fly wild and free around here. Okay. So poke that up through. And put, I think that's the female side. And you know, this uses up little scraps of fabric that you have. I think it's great for things like that. Because who doesn't have scraps laying around? We all have them. Are they laying around or are they in containers? That's the question. It depends on how much sewing I've been doing, would be my answer. Oops. Okay. Look at that. Now, I can't show you my phone going in there because I'm recording with my phone. But rest assured, the phone fits perfectly with a little room to spare. And mine is an Android phone, and it comes right up to about here, so it has a little bit of space. My husband's phone fits in the case I made to try this with, which is the same size. His fits in there fine. So you would have to measure your phone to see if this opening would be all right. The opening is, boy, it is 4.5. So you've got 4.5 by 7. So if your phone's bigger than that, I don't know. I don't know if there are phones bigger than that. But I really want to thank you for hanging out with me today here at Marie's Scrappy Creations. I hope you had fun. I hope you try making some of these. And as I said, you don't have to use this snap. You could use Velcro. You could use a magnetic closure. There's a few different things you could do. But I think it's a really cute little phone case, handy to have. You know, you could clip your keys on there and just grab it. I think it's kind of cool, and I hope you like it too. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time here at Marie's Scrappy Creations. Until next time, you guys take care, be kind out there, and if you haven't already, please think of subscribing. Don't forget to click the like. Bye-bye.